without further ado, we're going to kick it off, and I'm sure people will continue to trickle in. But good afternoon, and welcome to Jumpstart's monthly expert-led webinar, today with Linda Peavy on maximizing revenue with written content. I'm Lauren Smith-Petta, and I serve as Jumpstart's Director of Education. Jumpstart offers this webinar series on a different topic every month, along with a variety of other educational programs and events. Visit jumpstartinc.org/smallbiz to explore some of our other educational opportunities for small businesses. Before I introduce our presenter today, a few obligatory housekeeping items. This presentation session will be 60 to 90 minutes. In your toolbar, you should be able to see an important communication tool at your disposal today, which is the chat. Linda will ask you to respond to questions throughout, so please place your comments there. You're also welcome to introduce yourself at any time in the chat. The remaining session time will be set aside for the Q&A portion, and you can also see the Q&A tool in your toolbar, which is a great place to put your questions as they occur to you for Linda to address at the end of the session. At the end of today's session and in a follow-up email, you'll receive a brief survey. We and Linda appreciate your feedback. It allows us to continue to bring in experts and for our experts and entrepreneurs to continue to hone their expertise. All right, without further ado, allow me to introduce our presenter today. Linda Peavy is the owner of LiPav Consulting, a marketing, grant writing, and communications firm. She has many accolades to her name, so I had to narrow it down to just a few. With over 21 years of marketing experience, Linda has developed marketing campaigns and collateral for nationally recognized political, pop cultural, and Hollywood-based clients and organizations. Additionally, Linda's 17 years of professional publishing experience has led to the publication of more than 500 books for authors, self-published under the LiPav Publishing imprint. Linda has spoken before audiences exceeding 10,000 people, so I'm delighted that she's joining us today to impart some of her wisdom to a more intimate Jumpstart audience. Linda, welcome.
Thank you, Lauren. This is fantastic. I am really glad to be here, and I want to thank Jumpstart for the invitation, and Lauren has been absolutely fantastic. So yes, hello everyone. My name is Linda Peavy again, and I'm just glad to be here. I am a native Clevelander, so it is absolutely fantastic for me to be, providing this presentation on behalf of Jumpstart. So I want to know who is here with me today. I want you to give your city and your state a shout out. I am in really a little bit frosty Cleveland. We know there could be some little white stuff on the ground, so we are not complaining, okay? We're just going to have a good time. I have a lot of information to share with you. And so I am going to get started. Oh, I'm just seeing some wonderful places. Hey, Joe from Brook Park, and we've got the ATL with us. And Willoughby Hills. I think I know Willoughby Hills. Look at Ohio being represented, but also these other beautiful states. Look at Kentucky and Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for coming in from all over the country. So we're going to get started because, again, I do have a lot of information to share with you today. All right. So little bit more about me and my background. So I have over 13 years of experience writing grants as a professional grant writer. And during that time, I've been able to secure a little over $17 million in grants for clients. A lot of you know me probably as the grants queen, and I give various workshops all over the country. I am a proud alumnus of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program. And I am a member of Forbes Black, which is an organization of Black leaders affiliated with Forbes magazine. And I'm also a member of the Meta Elevate Business Hub. And since just last year, I have conducted over 150 live webinars. So we're going to talk more about webinars as we move along. So why is this class important for you to be able to know how to use content, right? Written content to increase your revenues and to turn that content into cash. Why? Because literally you can increase your revenue with your fingertips, right? What you have is already there. What you have is within you. It's really about being able to utilize the knowledge that you already have to be able to create income, cash flows, right? So your superpower is your knowledge. You just need some wings, right? So what I want you to do is get ready to attach those wings, because it is time to fly. We're not procrastinating any further. We are getting ready to really turn into cash what we already have in our passions. All right, so get ready, get ready. So what we're going to do today, as we outline the webinar, we will talk about how do you create content, right? Really based on your skill set or your passion, right? Could be one or the other. We'll talk about both. But also, okay, you can create the content. How do you package the content? There's so many different platforms available. So how do you package the content that you create for maximum sales revenue, right? And then I'm going to talk about really what are some of the best digital platforms that you can use to then go about selling, right, the content that you create. And then we're going to go really in depth into a sales funnel. Some of you may know what a sales funnel is. If you don't, that's okay, because I'm going to teach you a lot about sales funnels, because that is really what I found to be the best way of securing revenue based on written content. And then as a bonus, yes, we're going to throw in a little bit of AI. We're going to talk about artificial intelligence. I'm going to give you really what are some of the hottest platforms that you can use that will help you not only develop the content, but be able to use it in a way that will increase income. And we all like to increase the income, right? So, section 1, leveraging your expertise into profitable content. That is what we're going to talk about, right? So, the first thing you have to do is identify, right? What is your unique skill set or your passion, right? This is about using your knowledge as your superpower. And let me tell you, it doesn't always have to be something that's unique, right? It can be a need in the market, right? So when you take a look at your skill set, think about what it is that you know well enough that you can teach, right? So one aspect is your skill set. The other aspect is something that you're passionate about, right? That you can teach. So either something that you've learned, right? Or something that you're just passionate about. And a lot of you tend to think, oh, well, I'm not an educator. I don't have a degree in education. I'm not a teacher. No, you don't have to be an educator to educate. You do not have to be an educator to educate, right? It is about using that skill set or that passion, turning it into, right, a product that you can sell, one or the other, right? I'll give you an example. And it can be from learned, right, or lived experience, right? The learned experience, a skill set. So for example, I have been a professional grant writer for 16 years now, right? As I mentioned before, I've won over $17 million in grants for my clients. So what did I do? I decided that I wanted to do more than just write one grant at a time for clients. I wanted to help hundreds of clients, thousands of clients at once. So what did I do? I turned that skill, right, of knowing how to write grants into a grant writing academy. So now I teach grant writing, right? So I use that skill, turned it into a course, and now I teach grant writing, right? That was my learned experience. Now my lived experience, I did the same thing when it comes to style and fashion. I've been like a girly girl since I can remember in kindergarten, right? Everybody knows I'm a fashionista. Everybody knows, look, I dress this way if I go pick up the mail, right? They know I'm going to have hair and makeup and fashion done, right? Well, that was my passion. So what did I do? I decided to turn that passion, right, into written content. So I wrote a book that just launched a few weeks ago, The Culture Curves Guide to Mature Style, right, for curvy women. And there it is. It literally released on the Jumbotron in the middle of New York City, right? But that was an opportunity for me to turn my passion, right, into the written word, which meant a book. So you have to decide, right? Or maybe you can do both. Maybe you have a skill, right, that you can use, that you can turn into written content, or maybe it's just something that you're passionate about, right, that you can also turn into written content. It works both ways, and it doesn't have to be one or the other. As you can see what I've done, it can be both. Didn't do it at the same time, right? A few years, went by between the two, but just so you know, it can be either learned experience or lived experience. Now, you also need to know that there should be a need in the market for whatever, right, your written content is. You don't just want to be able to write a book about an idea that you have. You want to know that maybe there is a need or there is a demand in the market, right? And as I mentioned earlier, it doesn't have to be unique. I wrote a book about style, about fashion, right? Fashion and style is not unique. However, there was a need in the market for the book that I wrote, right? The Culture Curves Guide to Style for Mature Curvy Women. That meant that for me, I saw a void. I saw books that dealt with fashion. I saw books that dealt with curvy women. I saw other books that dealt with more mature women, but there was not one single book that combined everything, right? Until my book was released a couple of weeks ago. So I found that need in the market. So now there's a book that's available for plus size, mature women, right? So there needs to be a need. There's ways that you can use tools to research whether or not a topic is trending or whether or not you can fulfill a particular need in the market. Two really, really great research tools are Google Trends and Answer the Public, right? Because oftentimes it's not about reinventing the wheel. It's about, are you presenting the information maybe in a new way, right? Maybe there's been books written on a topic, but maybe there hasn't been a podcast about the topic. So again, this is not a matter of you thinking as if you have to start from square one and reinvent the wheel. Look to find out whether or not there's conversation, there's a need in the market. When you decide what it is that your written content is going to address. And also, are you providing information that people want from you? Like, are you one of those people that you hear often, right? Someone say, you really need to write about that, or you really need to talk about that, or you really need to maybe blog about that, and you just haven't done it, right? So if you're one of those people, be honest now, give me a yes in the chat. Are you one of those people where someone has said to you, you really, really, really need to write about that? Or, you have so much information. People need to hear from you. I'm getting some yes, ma'ams, fighting some yes and some yeses. Absolutely. But we keep it inside, typically because of fear, right? We don't know if someone's going to buy it, or we don't know if it's going to do well, but you're constantly hearing that little voice inside of you saying, I keep hearing people say I need to do this, right? You literally just have to step out on faith and do it, and know that oftentimes the universe will be very accepting of you if you take that leap. You would be surprised at what's waiting for you if you just get over that hurdle of fear, right? I had never published a book before, even though I had published over 500 books professionally for other authors. I had never published a book before, right? I had never created a course before. I certainly knew how to write grants, but I had never taught a course before. I'm not an educator. I don't have any degrees in education, but I knew a little bit about grant writing, and I knew a little bit about fashion, right? And sometimes that's what you need. So you got to get over the fear and really think about, are people waiting for your talents and your skills to manifest themselves right into the universe? So you really have to be able to say, yes, I'm going to move forward. Now, next, what do you have to do? You need to create a content creation plan. So let's say you've decided, right, the topic, you've done your research, you know what you're going to write about. This is just one of the easiest ways that you can get organized. You develop a content creation plan, focusing on whatever those high demand areas are, right, that align with your skills or your passion, right? These are going to be areas that you see people are wanting, or maybe you see there's a void, right, in that particular community where no one's addressing the topic, right? So you create this content calendar. What is it exactly? Well, it's a tool that you can use to plan, organize, and schedule all of your content related activities. Now, why would you want to create a content calendar? Because it really does keep you aligned with your goals. And that's one key factor that you will hear me talk about throughout this webinar. You really have to stay focused, because it is so easy for us to develop a plan and not stick to it. Why? Because we've got life on the right and life on the left, and life happening up and life happening down, and we've been pulled in all different directions. That's why a calendar is so important, to help keep you organized, so that when you input information to the calendar, you have a way forward, right? You have a plan to know, okay, Monday, I'm going to write about chapter A. Next Tuesday, I'm going to write about chapter B. So it just keeps you aligned with your goals, so that you don't get off track, right? So for example, let's say you're going to create an ebook on like teaching interior design for small spaces, right? And then, while you're in the midst of developing the book, an idea comes to you. Oh, I've always wanted to flip houses, right? Maybe I need to start writing about flipping houses. No, that's not in line with your original goal, right? Start small, do one thing at a time, right? This content calendar will help, right, to keep you focused. And that is what is going to be important. All right. So how do we develop this content calendar? Think about your publication dates, right? I like to start out and then work back, right? So you may have a publication date for whatever your content is, doesn't matter what it is, for a month from now, for 6 months from now, for a year from now, right? So set your publication dates. They will help to keep you focused and aligned, right? So what kind of content can you create, right? You want to write about a topic, right? There's high demand for the topic. You create your content calendar, but you also have to incorporate what the content is, right? Because some of these kinds of content just takes longer, right? It may take you 3 days to write a blog, whereas it may take, 6 months to write an ebook. So what are some of the types of content that you can create? Well, we know about blogs, right? Social media posts, videos, podcasts, newsletters, and all of these, by the way, can earn you money. We'll talk about that a little bit later. They can all earn you money. But at the end of the day, you have to decide what is it that you're going to write about, and then what type of content are you going to be able to use. And we'll talk a little bit later about the fact that you can create one of these types and then generate income for all of the others, right? So this doesn't have to be a task that weighs you down consistently. And that's one of the reasons why we have AI, right? That can help you develop a lot of content from maybe one particular type of written word. All right, so what will you write about? Make sure you stay aligned to your goals, right? And then also, don't be afraid to ask for help, right? You don't always need to feel as if you are doing this in a silo. Oftentimes, we can get the help we need if we only ask, right? But we have to get over that fear of asking. And you would be surprised how many people are willing to help you, right? If you only ask, right? So think about whether or not this is something you can do on your own, or, do you need help? Let's say you want to create a series of blogs. about a particular topic. They don't all have to be written by you. Maybe you could have some guest blogs, right? Maybe you know other experts in that area, right? That can contribute to your blog. But at the end of the day, it's your blog. So people are coming to you for the content, right? If it's a podcast, you know you need others, right, to be able to be guest speakers on your podcast, but people are still going to come to you because you're the subject matter expert, but you're also bringing in others, right, as guest members. So, don't be afraid to ask other people for help. All right. I see a lot of comments about AI. Yes, we're going to talk a little bit about AI at the end. All right. All right. Moving forward. Now, this is important. I have been consulting with organizations now for, I would say about 16 years. And this is a real issue that I see. And that is, you want to help everybody, right? You want to help everybody. Most people, they just want to help everybody. They want everybody to hear what they have to say. If they're writing a particular book, or if they have a blog, or if it's an ebook, or if it's a podcast, they want everybody, right, to be the audience. And unfortunately, that's just not always the case, right? You need to target your audience, right? There's an old saying called there's riches and niches, right? And this is something that I also teach in my grant writing class because I work with nonprofits and for-profits that really have a passion for what they do and they just want to help everybody. And at the end of the day, you can't help everybody, right? You can't help everybody. You need to really focus on who is your target audience, using the word best. Think of the word best of everyone that you have the potential to talk to and reach. Who would best, right, be served by your knowledge? So you'll need to really be able to think about that because you want to target a particular audience because it's going to serve you well when it comes time to generate revenue. All right. Now, also keep in mind when you are creating the content and whatever tool you're going to use, whether it's a blog or whether it's an ebook or whether it's a newsletter, you always need a call to action, right? So calls to action, what are they? They're specific actions that you want the audience to take after engaging with the content. There should always be a call to action, right? This is really crucial because at the end of the day, it gets you to the cash, right? But you have to ask for it in different ways, right? And you don't necessarily have to say at the end of the blog or the webinar, it's time for you to give up the money. No, there's ways in which you want to communicate and engage, right? It could be to call you, right? Leaving your telephone number. It could be to sign up for your email, right? Maybe it's a subscription service that they can get your newsletter. Maybe it is to just buy the product, right? And you are, indicating the price and the parameters at the end. Maybe it's to set up a meeting with you, but you always want the audience to engage with you on some level. You always want to be able to capture their information for future follow-up, right? And visuals, that's important too, right? Regardless of whether it's a e-newsletter or a blog or of course a social media post, whatever format you're using, ebook, you always have to think about the visuals too, right? Because the images and the videos and the media that you use can also be a selling point. All right. Now, we're still leveraging your expertise to get into the profitable content. We're still looking at the content creation portion of it. Remember, I talked about the avatar. It's actually called an avatar, right? The avatar is the ideal customer, right? Call to action for the avatar, whatever that avatar is, we'll get into the avatar a little bit more. We want to be able to target that particular person so that at the end of the day, you're getting that call to action. All right, so let's talk more about the avatar. Some of you might have heard of this term, right? What is it? It is really the customer, the ideal customer, right? That has a persona, right? It's the detailed profile of your ideal customer. And you need to keep this person in mind, right? When you are developing whatever your content is going to be, right? Represents a semi-fictional character based on market research and real data about your existing customers, including their demographics, their behavior patterns, what motivates them, what their goals are, right? Creating a customer avatar helps businesses to tailor their marketing and sales strategies, right? To attract and retain the most valuable customers, because you don't want to create content and just literally like throw it against the wall like you do spaghetti and just see what sticks, right? No, you want to be able to target your content to the person that you believe will be helped by it, and at the end will buy it, right? I have two avatars. I have the avatar for my grant writing academy. So my grant writing avatar is a mid-30s Black woman business owner seeking to diversify the income of the organization to stop bootstrapping, right? We know many for-profits, many nonprofits, they bootstrap, right? They're using their own money, they're self-funding, they're asking family and friends for money, right? And so that is my avatar. Now, does that mean that I have other students, right, that do not look like this person as a part of my grant writing academy? Absolutely, absolutely. But I also create a webinar that's targeted to Black-owned businesses. I also have another webinar targeted to women-owned businesses, right? But when I look at the typical avatar, right, that is buying the course, mid-30s Black woman business owner. Now, that's for the grant writing. Now, I also have an avatar for my style book and my style blog and my style business. She's a 55-year-old plus-size woman who has retired but is active and wants to enhance her appearance but doesn't know how, right? That is my ideal avatar. That is who I market my book to, right? Because the entire book is about style and fashion and beauty for women over 50. That is my demographic. People know, like, I'm 60 years old, so I'm talking to my demographic. So this is what you have to do. You have to really think about the content that you are creating, who would best be served by that content. And when you think about who would best be served by the content, you'll come up with your avatar. All right. Okay. It becomes important because, again, you don't want to just create content and put it out there and see who buys it. No, that's not what you want to do. You want to tailor your content to your avatar. Now, we are on to how do you package the content for maximum revenue? You know, there are so many different ways in which we see different content. Ebooks, right? Courses, videos, podcasts, e-newsletters, right? Blogs. So you want to be able to develop this content creation plan. Again, focus on what these high demand areas align to your skills and your passion. But you have to decide how you're going to package it. So let me know right now in the chat, how many of you already have a book or an ebook? Give me a yes if you have a book or an ebook. Give me a yes. Thank you, everybody. Ah, look at this. We've got people with, books and ebooks. Excellent, excellent. Okay, what about a course? How many of you have developed a course? How many people have developed a course? Let's see. Yes, yes, for the course. Oh, excellent. Look at this. Look at this. That's really, really admirable, I tell you, because, you know, courses are not always, the easiest to do, but everything seems to be a little bit easier now with AI, right? All right. What about a podcast? How many of you have I have not started my podcast yet. That is something that's on my to-do list. And again, it is because people keep telling me, Linda, you need to start a podcast about, the style and the fashion. Like, you've got to start a podcast. I hadn't thought about starting a podcast, but everywhere I go, people are asking me, Linda, where's your podcast, right? So guess what? I guess I'll be starting a podcast, because a lot of this really is about what I said before, demand. How many people are asking you to produce products, right? That means you clearly have a voice, right? Oh, look at Donata, internet TV. Excellent, excellent. All right, excellent, excellent. And what about a blog? I have a blog as well. How many of you have a current blog? Let's see. Kashana has digital planners. Oh, hey, Larry. Larry has a radio show. Let's see. Naomi has a podcast. Excellent, excellent. Hey, Joseph, I know you have a book, right? I know you have a book. You're saying you started install with the course. Well, hopefully, what I show you at the very end, I'm giving you a little bonus about AI. I'm thinking that will actually help all of you to move the needle, right? To being able to produce content, because it really does make it a lot easier, a lot faster, really an amazing tool, but you have to be careful. You have to use it in the right way, right? Valerie says she had a blog in the past, but it became too much. So that's where, Valerie, you might want to ask for what? For help, right? You might want to ask for help. You may get, for example, guest bloggers, right? That will write on the subject, but in their voice, and maybe about their particular area, but they can be guest bloggers, right? That's where it's so important for all of you, right, to be able to get help. Cherie says guest blogging is awesome. Absolutely, right? I've had my blog for 3 years, and I have guest bloggers on my blog as well. So there's ways in which you can get it done, right? But you need to ask for the help. And another bit of information for you: you don't have to do this all at one time, right? When you are creating your content, what I don't want you to do is fill this content calendar with new products like every week, because that just doesn't work. It's ambitious, you get burnt out, and then you don't do anything, right? So start with one or two and do them well first, right? Really start with one and do it really, really well. And then while you're in the midst of doing that well, maybe you can start something else. But what I don't want you to do is create this content calendar and say, oh, I'm going to write a book April 1st, and then 2 weeks later, I'm going to create a course. It just doesn't work that way, because at the end of the day, in between you doing all of this, life still happens, right? We're still dealing with everyday life, right? Oscar says he ghost writes blogs. So that happens as well, right? A lot of people hire ghost writers. But we're going to look at, some of these content types, right? So ebooks, courses, videos, podcasts, webinars, right? As I mentioned before, newsletters, they all can absolutely be priced to generate income. Podcasts and newsletters typically are great for like subscription services. You want people to subscribe to your e-newsletter. You want people to subscribe to your podcast. Again, maybe you can start free and then create a price version as you're able to get, multiple podcasts. And certainly the newsletter as well. If you have a paid newsletter, typically, that may come with some extra bonuses. Maybe if they subscribe to the newsletter, they could get some type of a discount off of a product that you have. So you can start off free and start charging, or charge from the beginning based on how much content information that you're providing. So your ebooks and your courses and your webinars and your videos, they're really, really great for like standalone products, right? So you could have a separate ebook. You could have a separate course. You could have a webinar. Webinars can be avenues to get people, right, to buy your product, or they can be standalone where you price out that webinar and you charge people to watch the webinar. Videos are the same, right? You could maybe have one free video, but if you have a set of videos, right, you may have a video course. That's where you may want to charge for the video. So either of those products there can be standalone, or, right, they can be part of a package of resources that you have. Maybe you have a larger package where it includes your ebook and your course and your webinars, and your videos. But again, make sure that you are starting small. Now, how do you decide on which forms of content to use based on your area of knowledge, right? You want to understand your audience preferences, right? Their behaviors, their consumption habits, right? Are your customers even on social media, right? If your avatar is not even on social media, then that's not the platform that you're going to use. Now, most people are on some form of social media, so it's likely that they are. It's going to be more important for you to determine which social media platform, right, that you are going to focus on, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But you can use tools like Google Analytics and Facebook Insights to help you determine who is tuning into your social media sites, right? So your Facebook page, you can use Facebook Insights to decide who's coming to your Facebook page. On all of my blog sites, I have Google Analytics, right? So Google Analytics will let me know when people are coming to my blog, what time of day, how long are they staying, where they're coming from, right? Google Analytics will let you know the person that shows up on your website or on your blog, are they coming from social media, and which social media platform, right? Is it organic traffic? So highly advise you, if you have a blog, if you have a website, install Google Analytics. It is a remarkable tool that will really help you determine who your customer is, what time of day and night, right? Are they coming? How long will they stay? So that is a must. Now, for those of you with a social media presence, make sure you're tuning into Facebook Insights, because it can give you a lot of information about who is visiting your page, right? So that it will help you determine, truly, who is your customer? All right. Now, this will help you in terms of, who you might want to target and where your ideal customer might be. So these are just some social media demographics. Facebook, historically popular with a broad demographic, like seems like everybody's on Facebook, but recent trends show higher engagement among adults over 30. Instagram, favored by millennials and Gen Z for its visual content, with high engagement in the 18 to 29 age group. Twitter, now X, right, attracts a wide range of users, particularly popular for news, entertainment, and politics. Engagement can vary widely by whatever that niche is. Now, TikTok, dominated by Gen Z, but rapidly gaining popularity across other age groups for its short form video content. Of course, we have no idea whether or not there will still be a TikTok in the US. We're still waiting to find out, right? LinkedIn, used primarily by professionals, making it valuable if your particular content is best for other businesses, right? LinkedIn is the place. A lot of B2B marketing and networking across a very diverse age group level. Pinterest, right? Popular with women, particularly in the 25 to 54 age group, and used for inspiration across topics like do-it-yourself, fashion, and home decor. So knowing the demographics of these social media channels will really help you decide where you should be marketing your product, right? But at the end of the day, you absolutely want to match your content's purpose, right, with what your audience prefers and values. Again, we don't want to guess, right? We don't want to throw that spaghetti on the wall and see whether or not it sticks. For instance, if your audience seeks like in-depth knowledge that you have, maybe an ebook is more appropriate than you just creating a series of social media posts. All right. Is that making sense? Give me a yes if this is making sense to you. Give me a yes if this is making sense. All right, all right, all right, all right. Okay, let's keep it moving. Now, remember I said before that you actually can use like one piece of content to create your other components, right? So you can make this a little bit easier. You don't have to create a blog post about one topic and then create social media posts about another topic. Choose one particular piece of content and then develop your other components from that one piece. And AI is great in helping you to do this. So let's say you choose an e-newsletter, right? You have an e-newsletter that you write periodically to inform your followers of your topic, whatever that topic might be, or of what you're doing, right? From that e-newsletter, you can create blog posts. You can literally expand the topic of the e-newsletter to create detailed blog posts, right? Each key point from the blog post can then become like a full-length article, right? You can create social media posts from that e-newsletter. Here you're creating like these little bite-sized engaging posts for social media, right? You can highlight like key facts, quotes, or stats as individual posts based on the information in the newsletter. You can also create infographics, right? You can take the information from the newsletter, right? Convert some of the data or the stats that you've talked about into visuals. Like people on social media love visuals. It's a way to attract them back to the content because some people, the visual is everything, right? They may not ever even read what your social media post says, but if you have that great visual, that's everything. I work with a social media expert who was an employee with Meta, right? And he teaches all the time that what attracts a person to an ad is over 60% the visual, over 60% the visual. So infographics, those visuals are very important, right? All right, you're going to take that e-newsletter and now create an ebook or a guide, right? Now you can compile several of those e-newsletters together to cover the related topics into one ebook or guide. Now, from that same e-newsletter, you can create some webinars or some live, maybe Facebook sessions. So turn that newsletter content into one particular topic for a webinar or a live Q&A session on any of your social media platforms, right? Also, if you want to be able to quiz like your Facebook followers or your Instagram followers, do so with information from the e-newsletter, right? You're creating quizzes or posts based on the newsletter's content. Again, you always want to think of ways that you can engage your audience and your audience's interests. Right? This is how you literally build a following on social media. It's not just about creating one post and leaving it. Remember I said call to action. You always want to somehow engage your audience. And of course, videos. You could create videos from the main points of the newsletter. All right. Next, assess the resources. Now, some of you have different time availability, right? You may have time, you may be retired, you may have time to spend creating a lengthy book. Some of you, may have a full-time job and then a part-time job, so you don't have time to create all of these resources. So a lot of what you are creating depends on the time that you have, the budget, right? Maybe you don't have a budget to hire an illustrator or a book designer or an editor for a full-length book. So maybe you just go with an ebook, right? Or maybe you're going to be looking at doing e-newsletters because it may be a little bit easier than the time that is required to create a course. So these are things that you think about: time, budget, and then skills. What particular areas will you need additional help? And oftentimes, yes, sometimes you have to pay for that help. So those are some of your considerations, right? And then, and again, identify where your audience spends most of their time online in the format supported by those platforms which we just saw. And then at the end of the day, test and retest and learn. This is something that was made very clear to me at the beginning. You test and you retest. I spend quite a bit of money every single month on Facebook ads, and I change the ads around, right? And I do A and B tests to see what is going to work, right? And so what I want you to think about is that when you're creating this content, again, roll it out on a small scale to see if it resonates with your audience, right? So maybe you start off by creating some social media posts about the topic and seeing, how much engagement you get. And if you're getting a lot of engagement, maybe you change those social media posts into a regular blog, right? And if you're getting a lot of feedback on the blog, then maybe you go from the blog to an ebook. So just know nothing's perfect the first time. This is all about tweaking what needs to be tweaked and then testing and retesting and learning. That's truly a part of this process. Don't think that from the first moment everything's going to come up absolutely perfectly, right? We just don't live in a perfect world, and there are circumstances way beyond our control that often affects whether or not what we're doing is going to be seen or is going to work. So just know it's all a learning process, and oftentimes you will have to test and retest. Creating the attractive packaging, right, and branding for your digital products, right? Now, if you're on a budget, you can consider platforms like Upwork and Fiverr, right? So maybe you're wanting to create like a great ebook with a great design, or those infographics, right? Or you want to produce a great video. Again, think about platforms like Upwork and Fiverr. I currently use them both. I use Upwork and I use Fiverr to hire professionals to create some of the product that I provide. And pricing, like I could probably do a completely separate webinar on pricing, but make sure that you are providing competitive pricing, right? Based on market research and perceived value. You want to look at similar products in the market, right? If you have no idea where to start, look at similar products in the market, right? If it's a book, go on Amazon and see what other books are priced at. Look at your competitors, or who would be your competitors, right? And find out, what they're charging, especially if they're new to the market, and find out what those pricings are going to be. I mean, if you're a new author, you're not going to necessarily compare yourself to like a Stephen King in terms of the royalties that you get or the number of sales that are to be generated, but similar products, and looking at others that are in the market that may be new, just like you are, right? But again, knowing your avatar helps to determine your pricing. And this becomes really, really, really important because I'll give you an example in the coaching world. Like we're on social media, right? It seems like every other person is a coach, right? And some of these coaches charge really, really high ticket items, right? That doesn't work for everyone, right? I've personally seen a lot of coaches lose their business because they're thinking, oh, it's either high ticket or the highway, right? Either I have to charge $10,000 for my coaching program, or I'm not going to have a coaching program. And what I'm saying to you is know your avatar, know what the market will bear for your particular product, right? In my world, I don't have a high ticket item that I sell to the masses, right? I don't. My course is like mid-price. My book is certainly low ticket. I'm saying to you that you can sell, and you can sell well without having, some $10,000 product, right? I've been able to build literally a multiple six-figure company, and was able to double sales over the course of the last year by offering low to mid-price products. So I don't want you to be in this arena thinking, if I don't charge something very, very, very expensive, then, that's it. I can't compete. It's just not true. All right. Yes, I think I did need to say that because you have no idea what the things that I hear, right? And I know coaches that, they're no longer coaches because they were pressured into like charging like really high rates. And there's a customer for everything. Let me just be clear about that. There's a customer that will pay $20,000 for a coach. But typically that person has quite a following. All right. Now, how are you going to sell? This is section 3, choosing the right platforms for your selling. We're going to go through a few of these. All right. Amazon, Kindle, Udemy, Shopify. We'll go through these. Now, for your ebooks or your books, you can choose Amazon, right? For your books, you could choose Amazon Kindle for your ebooks. You could choose Ingram Spark for your books. You could use Shopify. I think that should be Shopify, right? If you want to sell through your website, you don't have to sell on others' platforms, right? You can sell through your own website if you have a distribution model. But if you're publishing a self-published book, we know that I think is about maybe 70% of the sales right now for ebooks are going through Amazon. So that's probably going to be a good choice for you is go through Kindle. If you are going to be independently published, right, you can sell your books through the Amazon marketplace, but also sell your book through other marketplaces like Barnes and Noble and Borders and Books a Million and samsclub.com. If your book is independently published, you can sell on a multiple list of various distributors. You can either have Amazon publish the book for you. Right now, Amazon is publishing my book, but I am literally going through the process of having the book printed and distributed elsewhere, and then I will become a part of the Amazon marketplace. So right now, while Amazon is printing my book, I'm having my book printed elsewhere so that the book will now be uploaded into Amazon and become just another book that's a part of their Amazon marketplace. So you have options, right, for your ebooks or your books. And definitely, let me just go back because I want to say one more thing about if you have Shopify. So you can create ebooks, right? You can create books and sell through Shopify or maybe WooCommerce. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. So let's say you have a WordPress platform. You can create your website and sell through your website using platforms like Shopify and WooCommerce. You can literally create a partnership with a distributor where they will pick, pack, and ship your books for you, and you sell your books through your own website, right? In addition to maybe some other platforms. So you have options when it comes to books and ebooks. All right. Next, courses, right? There are a few options that I would recommend for courses. Teachable is used by a number of entrepreneurs. That should be a Thinkific. Thinkific is the #1 online course platform and my choice for courses. Sorry about that. That should say Thinkific, right? So Thinkific is the #1 online course platform and is what I use for my academy, for my grant writing academy. Udemy is another option. Now, Udemy, I find, offers a lot of super low courses. Like literally, you can get a course on Udemy for like $9.99. That seems to be the place where people put their courses, where it is very, very, very low cost. Or Kartra or Kajabi, those are a little bit more sophisticated, and they're also considered customer relation management software platforms where you can house a course on Kartra or Kajabi, but also have these platforms serve as your CRM, right? So that means if you want to use these same systems to email your customers, you can. So for example, instead of using like a MailChimp or MailerLite or Constant Contact, you can also use Kartra and Kajabi to email your customers, as well as housing your course on their platforms. I use Kartra. So Kartra is my particular platform. And next, webinars, right? So for webinars, you can use a webinar to bring people to your product. So you can offer a free webinar, and at the end of the webinar, you can sell your product, or you can package your webinar for sale. Again, it all depends on what your sales funnel, we'll talk about that a little bit later, looks like, and how you want to present your content to the world, right? When it comes to webinars, there's Zoom, there's Webinar Jam, are a few. I highly recommend Zoom. I've tried some of the others, and I just prefer Zoom. I tend not to have any issues with Zoom, no problem. So, all of the webinar platforms, I like Zoom, even though I think Zoom originally was created maybe more so for meetings. They do a fine job for me with my meetings and my webinars. And then that's what I utilize. But keep in mind, whether or not you use a webinar, right, or a course or an ebook, keep in mind, you still need a sales platform. You still need a platform that allows you to process payments, right? Kartra does, any of the courses like Udemy, Thinkific, Teachable, you can also process payments. So keep in mind, whatever platform you're using, you still need a way for people to purchase whatever it is that you're selling. So that is a platform that you're going to need. And that's also why a lot of people utilize WooCommerce or Shopify right on their website, so that at the end of the day, people have a way to pay. You always want to make it very easy for people to buy your merchandise. Like, they should not have to go through multiple steps, right, to get to the product, to buy the merchandise. Make it as easy as possible, right, for people to purchase from you. I cannot stress that enough, right? I cannot stress that enough. All right, let's see. This goes back to whether or not you have a personal website. So some of you may be selling products already on your website. If so, you need a mechanism. Again, I mentioned Shopify, right? That's a platform that is very, very, very widely used. WordPress has its own platform called WooCommerce. So let me know in the chat if you already are selling from your website. And this is a choice for a lot of people. Stripe, yes, Stripe is another one, right? Stripe. Yes, I do. I see some people who, excellent. So you've already been able to set up a system on your webinar or whether your website where people can buy from you. And that goes back to me saying, please make it easy for people to buy from you. And I always recommend that you allow a number of avenues for people to buy from you. So maybe they can buy from you on your website, or maybe they can get the book on Amazon, or if they go to barnesandnoble.com, or if they go to walmart.com to buy your products, right? So yes, Chris says you have a GoDaddy and a Shopify. Joseph says yes, he uses his website, right? I think you use your website to sell your book, right? So it's a great way, but keep thinking about, diversification. So think about multiple ways in which you can have people buy from you. All right. Okay. So how are you deciding? You're comparing the features, right? Fees, there are always fees whenever you look at the transactions, right? Whether or not you want to utilize the different resources, there are fees associated with each one. WooCommerce, right? There's fees with Shopify, there's fees with PayPal, right? There's fees with any of the systems that house your courses like Kartra and Kajabi and Thinkific and Teachable. They're going to get their fee for allowing you to be a part of the platform. Plus, there's typically a monthly rate that you pay as well. So keep in mind which one you want to use. Now, I know like third-party platforms like Amazon and Udemy allow you to market to others on their platform. So if you have your book on Amazon, You can go through Amazon selling, right? And sponsor your book and advertise your book on Amazon. Udemy is the same way. You can utilize Udemy's resources to market your resource that's on Udemy to other subscribers, right? Those that are selling direct really benefit from having a current customer base, right? So if you have a platform, yes, it's going to benefit you to be able to sell from your own website, right? If you have people who regularly come to your website anyway. So that's usually a big plus for those that currently have some type of following or some type of a customer base. Now, choosing a platform that allows you to present your offer for what you are selling. These are the most popular forms, right? So you need a platform to present your offer. You can use a webinar, or some people call them master classes. You can create a summit. You can create a challenge. Now, all of this is online. Now, this is the process that I use. I use a webinar, which we'll talk about later. But you need some type of a platform where you are presenting your information. And a webinar can be utilized through social media. You can use Zoom, or let's say you have a Facebook Live in your Facebook group, right? You give a webinar in your Facebook group. You give a masterclass in your Facebook group. Summits and challenges are a little bit more detailed. We'll talk about those. I think a webinar or a masterclass is probably the easiest product that you can create so that you are selling whatever product it is that you've decided to create. Now, webinars or masterclasses, they're really designed to educate, inform, and train. They're great because they allow interaction in real time, right? Especially, obviously, if they're live webinars and masterclasses, you get to really interact with those who are attending your event, just like this masterclass that we're having right now. You can interact right through the chat. Typically, the webinar or the masterclass is going to be focused on a specific topic. Now, we're talking about how you go about, right, selling whatever content it is that you've created. Again, webinars can be pre-recorded, right? Or they can be live. But being able to engage those who have come to you to learn from you is very, very important. And a lot of that happens in the Q&A or throughout the entire webinar with asking questions, as you see me doing, helps you to engage those that show up for your webinar. Now, another option is the summit. The summit is like a virtual conference that really features like multiple, educators, speakers. You're educating on maybe a broader theme. Oh, going too fast. A broader theme. Oh, let me go back. Mouse is getting ahead of me. Right, with a summit, you're educating on maybe a broader theme. And a summit can last for a half of a day, a full day, or days. So it's a little bit more structured, a little bit more detailed. And the last that you might have heard about, some of you might have participated in challenges, right? That's an interactive digital tool. What's great about a challenge is that you are engaging participants to complete tasks, right? Or activities over a set period, right? So if I had a challenge for my grant writing academy, it could maybe be a 3-day challenge or a 5-day challenge where every single day, right, that person is attending the challenge. They would get homework at the end of the day. And then the next day they would come back having accomplished something, right? So challenges are really designed to be participatory, where over a certain number of days you work, you come back onto it typically could be, again, a Zoom or a Facebook group with a particular goal in mind that is to be accomplished by the end of whatever that period of time is. Could be 3 days, 5 days. So challenges can be a lot of fun, but typically a little bit more detailed, a little bit more involved. I would recommend, if you are new to providing platforms, that you will start with the webinar, because they're just easier. And they're shorter, right? Most webinars are about 60 minutes, whereas the summits and the challenges can be days on end, right? But before we get to the funnel, I want to go back to the challenges and the summits, because I want to know how many of you have participated in a challenge or a summit in particular. Yes, so Crystal says yes, 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 yes. Tawana says yes. Challenges can be a lot of fun. They are more work, right? They are more work, but they can be fun. And you really do get engaged. And what happens for those of you who are giving challenges, by the end of that 3-day period or 5-day period, you really have an engaged audience, right? They are typically going to follow you on to the next event that you have or the next product, right, that you create, because you spend a lot of time with them. So if you're really wanting to know your audience well, a summit or a challenge really is the way to go. So next, we're going to talk about sales funnels and how you master sales funnels, because this is the way in which you get people to show up to your webinar. We're going to just focus on webinars because I have some examples for you there, and that's what I provide. I provided, as I mentioned, probably over 150 live webinars since 2023. So that's what I focus on. I think it's the easiest method. And we're going to talk about how do you get people to show up? Like, how do you get people to literally come to your webinar? And this is a big issue, right? Because many of you have probably implemented webinars and maybe didn't get the audience that you wanted, or maybe only a few people showed up. So the webinars that I provide live webinars 3 weeks out of the month. So 3 weeks out of 4, I provide live webinars, and I average about 1,400 people that register over the course of the week for my webinars. So over the course of a month, I get about maybe close to 5,000 people that register every single month for my webinars because I have a very successful sales funnel, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. But first, let me tell you what the sales funnel is, right? This is a map or a path that your prospects, right, your potential customers make to become a regular customer of yours. It is the various stages that a customer will go through from the very moment that they learn about you, or they hear about you, or they see you, to them giving you money, right? It's as simple as that. So all of the stages that happen from the first time they hear you or see you to them becoming an actual customer, all right? And why is it called a funnel? Because at every stage, the number of potential customers decrease, right? You've got a lot of people at the top of the funnel, and the closer you get to the number of people that will actually pay you money for your product will be smaller, right? So what you want to do is create an event for these prospects to attend and learn more about your offer. So you want to get as many eyeballs as possible at the top of that funnel. And let me show you what this funnel looks like, right? So this is the top of the funnel here, awareness, right? You want to get as many people as possible. I like to call them eyeballs. You want as many eyeballs as possible on your offer, right? So that's the top of the funnel. And we'll go through every single stage. Then you have the discovery, where typically that's the webinar. We go through the evaluation where you actually make whatever your offer is. Then we go through, at times you want to negotiate the offer, and then to the point where they're purchasing, and then you deliver, right? So we start at the top, we funnel down to where they're actually going to give you money. All right, so let's start at the purpose of the sales funnel. You need to create an event for prospects to attend, right? To learn more about your content, whatever it is that you've created, ebook, course, they need to learn about this offer, right? So when you use a sales funnel, you're providing this very clear framework for guiding your customers through the funnel down to the point where they are going to buy from you, right? And by having a funnel, it literally increases the percentage of people that will buy from you. So, for example, it's very hard to just advertise a book on Facebook and think people are going to buy it if you're new, right? You can spend all kind of dollars using Facebook ads. Let's say you have a new book out and you advertise it on Facebook and nobody buys it because people don't know you, right? They don't know who the author is. They don't know more information about you. But instead of you just advertising a book on Facebook and thinking people are going to come to you and buy it, you use a sales funnel. You use a sales funnel so that you are introducing the book through a very specific way, which is exactly what I'm doing, right? So I have a book. I am providing free webinars, right? Free webinars on style. So I'm getting a lot of eyeballs, right? A lot of eyeballs to come into my webinar. It's free. And during that webinar, I'm going to talk about style. I'm going to give them some really great tips. You have to give really good content, really great tips on style. And then at the end of that webinar, I'm selling my book because now in the course of 60 minutes, they've gotten to know me. I've gotten to know them. We're talking about fashion and style. I'm helping them. I'm providing content. So I'm building trust. So at the end of that webinar, they're all in because I've given them 60 minutes of fabulous content. So at the end of that webinar, they're ready to buy whatever it is I'm selling, as opposed to me just placing a book ad on Facebook, expecting people to buy that book because they've seen it on Facebook. Even people who know me, right, may not buy the book just because they see it on Facebook. But if they come to a webinar and I built this relationship and I've let them know about me, I know some more information about them, I've given them great content, now they're ready to buy. Does that make sense to everybody? Why it doesn't always work for you to just post a product on Facebook and then expect people to buy it, right? You have to warm up your audience. You have to get to know them. You have to let them get to know you so that they want to buy from you, right? They want to buy from you because they trust you. And so, yes, that webinar someone mentioned is also called a lead magnet, right? You're getting people in. That webinar, you're getting people in, right? So this is why it's important. It does increase your conversion rates now because people get to know you. It engages your customers so that they're just not buying blind. They know you know what you're talking about because in that hour webinar, you've let them know you know what you're talking about, right? So these funnels are important because they really do maximize your return on investment. So now you can spend money on Facebook ads and you're getting all of these people, right, that's coming to this free webinar. Even though it's free, keep in mind you are gathering what? Customer information, potential customer information. You're gathering names and email addresses. So even though that webinar is free, you're gathering very important content, excuse me, that would allow you to contact them again. Names and email addresses, right? So this is going to literally improve your customer retention because again, you've spent time with them. You spend an hour with them in that webinar, right? And so a well-designed sales funnel doesn't just end with the purchase. Now it gives you time to do post-purchase engagement. Why? Because you bought from them or they bought from you, you have their names, you have their email addresses, and even if they don't buy from you, now they know you, right? Even if they don't buy that product at the end of that one webinar, now they know you. So it's going to be a little bit easier for you to sell to them the next time. So it starts with the awareness, right? For me, I use Facebook ads. This is my lead generator, right? Somebody mentioned lead generation. Excuse me, right? A webinar is a lead generation. right? I need lots of eyeballs. So I'm sending out Facebook ads for my Facebook ads for my style webinar. I do target it to women over a certain age. I target it to women that specifically buy from like plus size stores because I want to make sure there are mature plus size women looking at my Facebook ad, right? So it's like casting the strategic net to get people to learn about the offer, right? And so the offer, my offer, right? I'm using a webinar, but I'm also using, this is not the end of it, right? You can also use email campaigns, right? Excuse me, because at this point, you've gotten names and email addresses. So you're using email campaigns, right, to maybe remind them to show up to the webinar because now you've got names and email addresses. You can use social media posts, right, to keep the word out about that webinar. So it doesn't always have to be Facebook ads. Maybe you can create a set of social media posts where you're sending out the social media post saying, yes, I'm giving you this free webinar, right? But again, as I mentioned, I use Facebook ads, but you don't have to. But keep in mind, we'll talk about Facebook ads in a minute. Facebook ads does not have, they don't have to be as expensive as you may think, right? So let's look at Facebook ads because this is what I use. Make sure you're using maybe a lead campaign. There's a difference between a lead campaign and a traffic campaign. A lead campaign means that Facebook is showing your ads to people who are most likely to sign up, right? Now, a traffic campaign means you just want to get as many people as possible to see your ad. I run a lead campaign because I don't just want people to see the ad, right? I want people to sign up to the webinar. So that's just a tip for you. If you want people to sign up, if you want that ad shown that people are going to sign up, lead campaign. And again, test. I always run two versions of my Facebook ad. One is static, one is a video. So I have just one picture of me playing, and then I have a video, like I think it's like a 60-second video. If you are running Facebook ads and you want to run Facebook ads, these are just some tips for you. The first 3 seconds of the video is by far the most important. In those first 3 seconds, you need to be talking to your avatar, your audience. And then for your written copy, the first line of the copy is the most important. This is coming directly from people who have worked at Meta for years. Run your ad at least 2 weeks prior to your webinar. So give that algorithm time to start working. Now, for those of you who think Facebook ads have to be expensive, they don't. You can run a Facebook ad for as little as $5 a day. And so in some cases, it will go down to $3 a day. But to be effective, you can run a Facebook campaign for as little as $5 a day. This does not have to be expensive. Now, I spend about $6,000 a month on Facebook ads, but I have a sophisticated funnel, and the funnel works for me because I'm targeting certain markets and I run a lot of webinars, right? But $5 a day, yes, you can run a Facebook ad. Again, this is awareness, right? We're getting people into the funnel. And if you are going to run Facebook ads, make sure you have what's called a Facebook pixel on the page where people are going to register for your webinar, because you want to be able to track people who come to the landing page to register for the webinar. You want to be able to track where that traffic is coming from. All right. Now, this is the discovery phase, right? Excuse me, the discovery phase. You've run the Facebook ad. Now, where are they coming to? The Facebook ad says you're giving a free webinar. You need for them to come to some type of a page to register, right? That's the discovery part. So you need to set up a landing page where they can come and register for your webinar, right? So in the Facebook ad, you're going to link to the registration page, which is your landing page. Just keep in mind, right, even that landing page, you need great copy and great visuals, because you want people, once they get to the landing page, to actually register. You don't want people to come to the to the registration page and be turned off and say, oh, I don't know if this is really what I want. So even that landing page has to be enticing and exciting. You want people to come and say, yes, I want more, like I want to be a part of this webinar. But what's great is that you're gathering names, you're gathering email addresses and telephone numbers, right? So that you can engage them in the future. And again, I skipped over this one. This one is really important. On that landing page, why they absolutely have to attend your webinar. Like literally, you're going to be using copy to where once they get to that registration page, they cannot say no. Like they feel like, look, I have to show up to this webinar. And that's where really good copy comes in. And then the Facebook pixel, which is going to be on that landing page, really helps you to track who clicked into the landing page. All right. So where's this landing page, right? It could be on your website, right? It could be on Zoom, or if you have one of these different CRM systems, you can create a landing page on any of these: MailerLite, MailChimp, Constant Contact, Kartra, ClickFunnels. You just need somewhere to create a page where they can register. And I don't have people register right through Zoom because, Zoom is not a design company. It's pretty, pretty regular where, you just fill in your name, your email address. I use Kartra, where I can create this beautiful landing page where, again, I am enticing people to absolutely not walk away from that page unless they have registered. So I would recommend even getting something like a MailerLite or MailChimp. They're pretty affordable so that you can create a beautiful landing page so that when people come, they cannot walk away without registering, right? Now you're evaluating. This is the evaluation stage, right? This is the webinar. This is where you are evaluating whether or not they're going to be your customer, because this is what you're providing, right? A free webinar, an hour, you're engaging the audience, as I mentioned. Now you're giving an overview of why they should be engaged in the webinar and what they will learn. This is to keep people on that webinar, because keep in mind, you're making your offer at the end of the webinar. So you want people to come to the webinar and stay on the webinar, right? So your webinar has to be a great webinar. And as you move through the webinar, you're giving information about how you're able to resolve their problem, right? You're covering pain points. Pain points are critical when it comes to attracting people to you. Even when you use copy for your Facebook ads or your landing page, I'm all about pain points. So pain points are points where you literally indicate the issues that your customer is going through, right? So if I'm using a pain point for my style webinar in my Facebook ad, I'm saying something like, are you tired of wearing muumuus out to dinner? Muumuus are like regular plain dresses, right? Or are you often afraid to go to your closet to find an outfit to wear to maybe a fancy dinner or to a wedding, right? So that's a pain point, right? People struggle with, what do I wear to a wedding? What do I wear to maybe a special occasion event? So I'm hitting on pain points. This is what you need to do as well, based on whatever your product is, right? So you're restating those pain points throughout the webinar so that they stay on the webinar. Again, great content, they're getting engaged, right? And now, at the end of the webinar, you are presenting your offer. So for me, I'm going through my style webinar, right? I'm talking about different ways to dress. I'm talking about pain points. I'm talking about why it's so easy. I can show you, 3 different steps to finding the best color for your complexion. I can show you 3 steps to go through to find the perfect outfit every time. So you're keeping them engaged. And then at the end of the webinar, I'm presenting my book with all of this information, right? 200 pages of full color guidance on how to dress for whatever occasion you want to go to. But during that webinar, I'm giving them really, really, really good content. And that is what you're going to do based on your product, right? So at the end, you make your offer. And always the most engaged people stay right into the end, right? The most engaged people, they will ask the questions. And it's those people for whom you're going to get your customers from, right? Now, sometimes, especially if it's maybe during the middle of the day, people have to leave, and that's okay. But that's why you send your follow-up emails, which we'll talk about in a second. But typically, if people stay all the way to the end, they're the most engaged. I have a lot of webinars that occur at night. My webinar started at 7 o'clock at night, and so I'm on until 9 o'clock. And people stay all the way into the end because they found the information so helpful that they want more, right? And now at the end, you give your offer, right? Now here's a few tips to really increase your conversion rate to selling at the end of that webinar. Give an extra bonus if people buy before the webinar ends. That's like a great one. Maybe you give them an extra 10% off if they buy right before the webinar ends, right? Now, typically I give them a timeline. So I give them an offer, right? An offer at the end of the webinar. If it's my grant writing webinar, I give them a pretty big discount if they buy the course over the course of a set number of days. 3 to 5 is typical. Typically, I use 3 days, but you need to be able to give them a timeline, because guess what? Life happens to people. They may think your webinar is like the best webinar, the product, they have to have it. They can't buy it right then and there, right? But they intend to buy it when they leave your webinar. But guess what? As soon as that webinar ends, life happens, right? And then they forget. That's why you need to give them a timeline so that this becomes a priority for them, because they know if they can't get it in 3 days or 5 days, the discount goes away. Now, one thing I do want to say about those of you who may have higher ticket items, it's hard to sell after a 30-minute webinar into a high ticket item, because people just haven't learned enough about you to say, I'm going to give you $1,500. I'm going to give you $2,500. So typically, if you are selling a higher ticket item, you want to give them the opportunity to set up a follow-up conversation with you, right? And so it's within that conversation that you're giving them additional information to make them feel comfortable enough to know that, yes, this offer is for me, and I'm okay with spending, $1,500, $2,000, $5,000, whatever the amount is. But it's rare that you are able to sell a high ticket item at the end of a 60-minute webinar, because there just isn't enough time for people to feel comfortable enough with you. So oftentimes your goal is to set up an avenue for a person to call you and set up another meeting. All right. Now, okay, the webinar's done, right? You've delivered this great product. You've got your customer. Now you need to keep your customer. You don't want the customer to just be, one of those I think it's called a one-trick pony. No, right? You want the customer to become loyal to you, right? So they're coming back again and again and again. So how do you do that? You send nurture campaigns, right? They're called nurture email campaigns. So maybe every 2 weeks, you're sending out an email with information about your subject area, right? For me, every 2 weeks, I may be sending out an email about grant writing or about something that's happening in the style world, just to keep yourself and your platform in front of your customer. They're called value-added emails. Or maybe you want to promote a new product. Think about the 80-20 rule. 20% of customers account for 80% of sales, right? So you want to be able to develop loyal customers that will come back to buy your product, your written content again and again and again. All right, so that completes the sales funnel process. I want to just give you a couple of tips on how you analyze if you're going to use the Facebook ads. They're called KPIs, key performance indicators, because at the end of the day, you want to know whether or not your Facebook ads are important, right? You want to know what was the click-through rate. You want to know, how many of your ads were performing if you're running more than one ad, right? What was the cost of your conversions? Excuse me, how much did you spend on the ad versus your sales? Because if you're spending $1,000 on Facebook ads, right, and you're only generating $500 worth of sales, you need another strategy, right? So you have to be able to analyze not just your Facebook ads, but your webinars, right? How many people are showing up to the webinar? How many people are registering, right, but not showing up? How many people are coming to your landing page, but then they're not registering for the webinar? So you have to analyze the results so that you are able to tweak and improve your performance, right? So this is just a quick outline of my six-figure sales funnel. My Facebook ads for my free webinar, clients register for the webinar. I send out email reminders to get them to show up to the webinar, right? So as soon as someone registers for my webinar, 5 days before the webinar, they start to get emails saying that you have to show up. I have so much information to share with you. If you show up, you'll be included in a free drawing, right? And I give them some tips even in the email so that they're excited about showing up. And then I provide my free webinar. At the end, I sell my mid-ticket item, and then they get 3 days to purchase the offer. And then even after that, they continue to hear from me, right, with other offers or just other information that's important to them. This is just kind of like a high-level overview. It gets a little bit more complicated. Like, this is actually how my sales funnel is mapped out. Yours don't need to be anywhere near as sophisticated, but I've been doing mine for a while. All right, now I'm going to end up with just some AI tools that you can use, right, to increase the productivity of your written content. It'll make it faster and easier for you. So these are 3 writing tools that will help you with your content, right? So most of you, I think, have heard of Chat GPT, right? That's generative pre-trained transformer, right? It replies to questions or requests that you give to it. The beauty of Chat GPT is that it will be most helpful for you if you train it. You need to train it in your voice, right? Oftentimes, if I can read a grant application and pretty much know if it's been written by AI. You have to train AI, no matter what the tool is. You have to train it in your voice, and there's a way that you train it to respond to you in your voice. And then everything is about the prompt, right? You have to give it the right prompts. There are actually people who right now are studying prompt engineering, right? So you give the prompt to the Chat GPT, and it will give you answers, and it will respond to your requests. Now, if you are grant writing, for example, Grantable is a really great tool that will assist you in grant writing, but you have to have completed a grant proposal that you upload into Grantable, and then it will help make any grant proposal better. Now, if you want to convert large documents, so for example, ChatGPT, you can't upload a big document into ChatGPT, but with Claude, you can. So literally, you can upload, let's say you've already written a book. I think, Joseph, you've written a book. You can upload your book into Claude, right? And really, literally ask it to create some blogs for you, right? Some social media posts for you, e-newsletters for you, because it will hold up to 75,000 words. Like, it's really, really, really incredible what Claude can do, unlike some of the other AI tools. All right. And for transcription, right, this makes it easier. If you are transcribing, right, Otter.ai, a lot of people use that even for Zoom, offers real-time transcription. So let's say you use Otter.ai, you're on a webinar, and you want a transcription of what is taking place. You can use Otter.ai. Rev.com provides AI. That's another human-based transcription service. Descript is another platform that you can use. It also has video editing capabilities. It's kind of a one and all tool that provides transcription, but also audio, and it will transcribe audio and video into the written word. And for repurposing content, right? We talked about that. Let's talk about that newsletter, right? That we created, I think maybe 7 or 8 different other pieces of content just based on one newsletter. You can use AI to help you. Canva's Magic Write will generate additional content for you once you include written word. Lemon 5 is another one. That's a video creation platform that transforms blog posts and other text content into videos, right? Quillbot offers paraphrasing tools, right? Grammar checking. Jarvis, that's now called Jasper, is another AI tool that helps generate blog posts, social media content, emails, and more just from existing content outlines or briefs. So you may just have an outline, right? An idea of what you want to use, and you put it into Jarvis and ChatGPT as well. You can put an outline into ChatGPT or Jarvis, and it's amazing, what it will create for you. All right, so I just have a couple of specials and deals and discounts for my Jumpstart family. I talked about the grant writing course, so if you're interested in buying the grant writing course, it is available to you. It is a soup to nuts course that offers 12 modules, 35 lessons, videos, planners, workbooks. I have a list of over 450 funders. Most for-profit organizations do not know that there are grants available to them. That is what I'm always educating about. Yes, there's like millions and billions of dollars available to for-profit organizations, especially women-owned and Black-owned organizations. So that is one bit of information I find myself always talking about, because people think of nonprofits, right, when they think about grants, but there are grants available. And I teach for-profit organizations how to write grants through the course. So if you want to buy the course, it's available to you. It's normally $997. I try to keep it at $497 to make it affordable. But if you use the Jumpstart code, you can make one payment of $247 and you will get the entire course, soup to nuts. It never expires. You'll have it forever. It's been audited 3 times, so it's definitely worth $5,000. It's a huge deal based on what you would pay maybe some of the universities. Their courses are about $5,000. And that is available to you. And also, I am creating a winning webinars toolkit, right? Because I want to provide a product that will make creating webinars easy for you. And we are currently in the development stage. It will be available shortly, but I'm offering you a pre-sale on it. Like, this is the first time anybody's ever seen this, right? And it is called Winning Webinars Toolkit: How to Create Webinars That Convert. Unlock the secret to skyrocketing your sales with webinars. And I have created this based on being able to generate over $500,000 in sales just through my webinars. You get strategy notes, you get a sales funnel planner, you get a landing page template, you get a webinar template, a slide deck, you get email scripts, so important, you get a planner, and you get a Facebook ad cheat sheet. And we're looking at the price to be about $97, but we are going to launch with a sale price of $47. But you get a pre-sale price because we haven't produced it yet. But if you buy it now, yes, $27 is all you will pay for it. And it is available to you now if you take it for the pre-sale price. All right, so that is it. I am done. I am hoping that this was helpful. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
It looks like actually a number of questions were coming in. So we'll just go in order that they came in. If you have questions right now as well, you guys are welcome to put them in the Q&A or raise your hand, and we're going to go in order. So Carl asked, does Facebook Insights work with LinkedIn?
No, not to my knowledge. I've never used Facebook Insights on LinkedIn. No, I have not.
Thank you. Oscar said regarding section 2, number 10, competitive pricing based on perceived value. What is considered too high? A small business cannot get as low as big box brands. Then again, folks don't value a too low priced offering, right? So what is too low and what is too high?
Well, I mean, that's very hard to say because it depends on the product, right? I'll give you an example. My book, The Culture Curves Guide to Style for Mature Curvy Women, that is a self-published book, right? It is a 200-page book with over 200 full color images. Like your typical book from a traditional publishing house would be maybe $20, $21, right? I can't charge that for my book because I have to self-publish, right? So I have costs that a professional publisher would never have. So my book is $30. It's all about what you bring to that book, right? It's my knowledge, right? So I'm bringing to this book information that they're not going to get from someone else. So this is why you have to present yourself as a subject expert, because that knowledge that you bring is what is going to allow you to charge a higher price, right? So I can say to people that I have secured over $17 million in grants, right? That will make people want to hear from me because I have positioned myself as a subject matter expert. The more you can position yourself as a subject matter expert, the more people are going to be willing to pay you a higher price because it's coming from you and not anyone else.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Faye is asking, do you have to prepare your own ads for Facebook?
Yes. So Facebook will not prepare an ad for you. You need to be able to upload an ad that has already been created. Either you can create it or you can literally go to Fiverr and spend like $5, $10 and have someone create an ad for you. So it does not have to be expensive at all.
Great. Carl also asked, how do you address written content and sales funnel when your target audience for the solutions and services you provide needs to be shown that they have a pain point or a migraine, since they are being masked by stereotypes, inline KPIs, and profits, but the lack of awareness is costing them time, money, and other resources?
So that's a great question. So when I create my pain points, I want to get people to envision what life would be like if they don't buy the product, right? So oftentimes people are so ingrained in the issue that they can't even see that they have a pain point. They can't see the problem. So you have to make that problem visible to them, right? So for example, the grant writing course that I offer, people want grant money, right? But I present to them, I will say to them, for example, there are organizations waiting, right, for you to present your product, your idea to them, right? But you can't do that because you don't have enough funding, right? Or are you exasperated because you are tired of not being able to meet your payroll, right? So you present them with really what is factual, but sometimes it has to be placed right in front of their face for them to see it, to say, oh, okay, I'm having trouble making my payroll. But if I can get free grant money, that will help me to bring in money to make my payroll. So oftentimes you literally have to present that problem in the form of a pain point right in front of them for them to be able to see, oh, okay, I didn't realize that whatever product it is that you're offering will literally help me with the pain point. So they can't make that leap. You have to make that leap for them. You have to say in that ad, right, that the product that you are creating will help them overcome the pain point, because oftentimes they're not going to be able to make that leap. They just know they're in pain, right? They just know they're in pain.
Fantastic. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. Antoinette, I'm not sure if this is the right phrasing. I'm not totally positive, but she wrote, do you have a QR code to script? Does that make sense to you?
Well, the QR, I'm not sure I understand. So the QR code, you can create a QR code typically so that people can hit the QR code and go right to the purchase point. Like, for example, I have a QR code that you can scan. It'll take you to the Amazon page to buy the book. I have a QR code that you can scan that will take them to the registration page. So you can use a QR code in many different ways. So you can use a QR code to have people literally scan it, and it will take them to your registration page, but I'm not sure how that connects with a script.
Antoinette, if you want to elaborate, you're welcome to raise your hand while we move on to the next question, and then we'll come back to you. Another attendee asked, can AI help me write or put my book together? And which app would I use for a 200-page book?
Chat GPT can help you write your book for sure. You can literally give Chat GPT an outline, chapter titles, what you want the reader to come away with. And then it can help you write the book. The Claude, CLAUD, is what you would need for your 200-page book, because that's a little bit longer. So let's say you've already written, right, a lot about what you want in the book. You've written pages and pages and pages of information, but it's not in book form. It needs to be coordinated. You need to have chapter titles, and you need for the content to be placed in the appropriate chapter title. Like, my background is in publishing. You can upload that unorganized, document, everything scattered. The ideas are all over the place. Chapter 9 probably needs to be chapter 1. You can just upload that into a AI tool like Claude, give it the parameters, give it some chapter titles, give it an overview, and then it will, create a more organized book for you. But I would use Claude for that, CLAUD.
Amazing.
And I see
Thank
some
you.
people are putting into the chat how they are currently using AI with their book as well. So you might want to check out the chat narrative.
Great.
I did not use AI to write my book, but I know ways in which you can use AI to write your book.
We also have a lot of questions wanting to take advantage of your pre-sale and some of your discounts. Are you able to share those links with us so we can put those in the follow-up email?
Oh, sure. You want me to put that into the chat?
You're welcome to share them with me, and we will get those in the follow-up email for everyone who's listening and is interested in some of these amazing deals Linda is offering today. We'll get those in the follow-up email that'll be coming out in the next couple of days. And Crystal also just put a link in the chat, just in case.
Yes, the link to the toolkit, the pre-sale, the little toolkit is in the chat. And then I'm going to put the link to the course and the code. The code will take $250 off of the price of the course. Let's see. So this is the link to the course, and then the code is Jumpstart, and that is all lowercase, and that is a $250 discount. So you'll get the entire course for $247. And the course does include my coaching. So I have a couple of my students. Thank you for showing up in this webinar, and they'll be able to tell you more information. I give a free private Facebook group that you will become a part of, and then I have monthly group coaching for those that are interested in the grant writing course. So you get my coaching as well as the course.
Wonderful. We have time for one more question. It looks like Ashia sent that through. So first, you got to thank you. And then the question is there a time frame when you recommend to start the launch strategy for a webinar or event? Is there any difference in the strategy, rather if it's paid versus free? For example, I'm a bridal hair and makeup artist. I want to have a free webinar to attract newly engaged couples who I should start to advertise. When should I start to advertise? 30 days? Is it the same for a paid event, such as a makeup workshop, in person versus virtual? So lots of questions there.
So your ad campaign 3 weeks out, and you don't need to do it any more than 3 weeks out. I would start the ad campaign 3 weeks out, the date of the webinar, right? I don't think it makes a difference whether or not it's paid or unpaid. The Facebook ads start 3 weeks out. Keep in mind, you have to move backwards from the date you are advertising the webinar, because when you advertise the webinar, what are they doing? They're going to a landing page to register. That means you need to have the landing page complete. I would give the landing page, based on who you use, maybe 2 weeks, right, to create the landing page. I have a dynamic person that, she puts up things in a couple of days, but give it 2 weeks, right, to get the landing page completed, right? Back that out, because you want to have the webinar done. Now, you can wait until, close to the date of the webinar to actually get the webinar perfected. But start back, okay, from the time that you are creating the ad. Keep in mind the components that you need, right? When somebody registers to the webinar, you want to start sending them emails 3 days before the webinar to remind them to show up. So you need time to have someone create the emails and put the emails into your, whether it's MailChimp or Constant Contact. You need time for that. But you can be doing that literally at the same time that the ad is running. You can create the emails during the same 3 weeks that the ad is running, because the emails won't start until 3 days before the webinar starts. So Facebook ad 3 weeks out, landing page 2 weeks out before then. I would say start the whole process. Give yourself 2 months, to complete the whole process. I would say that would give you time to do everything you need to do, like 2 months.
Wonderful. The questions are pouring in. We have two more if you have the time,
I
Linda.
have time, absolutely.
Amazing. Carl said, do you think it would be better to create your own podcast for becoming more known to the target audience you wish to reach, or work on becoming a guest on a pre-existing podcast?
Oh, definitely create your own podcast. Create your own podcast, because that's how now you can do both. This is not an either or, right? These are not like mutually exclusive items, right? But create your own podcast for sure. Because what happens when people want to hear more from you, right? What happens when someone may see you on a podcast, on a popular podcast, right? And they really love what you're saying. How are they then going to hear more from you? Are they going to try to find out, where else are you going to be speaking on somebody else's podcast? No, they're going to want to come to you, right? And you need to be able to give them what they want, right? So by you having a regular podcast, that will fulfill that need.
That makes a lot of sense. Pamela asked, with a large number of people now applying for grants, how unique is the database of grant funders, and how many students have been able to secure grants from your courses?
I can't tell you the number of students that have been able to secure grants, because not every student tells me that they have secured a grant. Not every student provides that information, because for, I think, a number of reasons. Some people like to keep that information private. I wish they didn't. But I can tell you, there's been hundreds of students. My testimonials are on my website. They're in the Facebook group. They're part of the webinar. Um, Whitney secured like $200,000 last year. So my students, most of them have never secured a grant before. So it's not as if, okay, they were already doing this and this just helped them. Most of my students have never secured a grant before. This is something new to them. Most of them didn't even think securing a grant was even possible. I can tell you that my students have secured literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in grants. And some of them, to their surprise, it doesn't take long, right? 2 months after they join, they find themselves getting grant money. So it's been a very useful tool for those who are willing to put in the work.
For sure. Great.
And I think she had another question before that. The number. So with a lot of organizations, I think submitting applications for grants, I can tell you what has happened in the grant world, because I've been in it for 17 years. The grant application has been streamlined. So years ago, I was one of those grant writers where literally I was submitting a 500-page grant. spending months doing it. That is no longer the case. These grants are like 2 to 3 pages because the foundations don't have the staff to sort through a 100-page grant application anymore. So it makes it easier. The process is easier for you to be able to write and submit, right? The process is easier. The length of the application is much, much, much shorter, right? So foundations and corporations, because corporations give grants too, they have streamlined their process so that it's easier to sort through the number of grants that are being provided. Another tool that I've seen created is that many foundations are going to invite only applications where you have to be invited to apply for the grant. Whereas most people see an invite only and they turn around and they go in the other direction. That's just makes me know that I need to be invited, right? That's not going to turn me away. It just means, okay, if this is invite only, I need to make sure I get invited. So I go through the procedures and the process to make sure that at some point they invite me to apply for the grant application. So those are two different occurrences that I've seen that I believe addresses, this huge influx of grants. I think you have to be really, really super careful with AI. There's now software that can detect whether or not AI has been used, right? So if you are wanting to write grants, please don't think that you're going to buy ChatGPT and they're just going to start writing all these grants for you, because I've been in foundations, leaders meetings where they know what's happening and they're getting applications that basically all look the same. Everything's generic, everything's bland because people have been using AI. That's not how you use AI. I'm actually creating a webinar that will be ready in about a month that will teach people how to use AI when they want to write grants, because there's so much misinformation out there. People are, unfortunately, for lack of information, misusing AI, thinking that, okay, they're going to use AI and get all of this grant money because AI is going to write all these grants for them. And that's not realistic. That's not what's happening at all. There's just more applications being rejected because no one's diving deep and answering the questions on the grant applications. Everything's like on the surface, and that's not what foundations want.
Fair enough. That makes perfect sense. That's actually our time. Before I wrap up with a couple of things, let me thank Linda. Our time is one of our most precious resources, and I think this was an incredibly valuable use of 2 hours. So thank you so much for joining us and for this font of information you promised. You delivered. So we will include Linda's contact information and those links that she provided in our follow-up email. We'll also be sending you a survey, and we'll share those results with Linda so that she can continue to be an amazing presenter and so that we can continue to give you what you're looking for. We always have more webinars coming up on the third Wednesday of every month, including Cybersecurity Unveiled, Navigating the Myths and Realities for Small Businesses. That's on April 17th. And The Art of Self-Promotion and Marketing Yourself to a Global Audience is on May 8th. You can see our webinars and other events at jumpstartinc.org/events. Thank you all so much for coming, and we will see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. I appreciate it.